Now, with respect to the NCERT, when we study climate topics becomes very, very important. It is little technical also. The first thing that comes into our mind is, what do you mean by climate? So, what are the factors determining the climate of India? Now, have you ever thought or experienced why this particular region is the wettest region? What do we say when we talk about monsoon? We say reversal of wind is taking place. The reality is today, if you ask me, sir, can you give me the exact reason why the monsoon originates? If I am telling you this concept, there might be certain books and videos and concepts which will contradict to this. Why? Hello aspirants, welcome to PW Only IAS. I am here Harpreet Singh with another beautiful chapter of geography, that is climate. Now please remember students, as we all promised you, that we are going to complete the series of geography. We're going to cover almost all dimensions that are present in the NCERT. Now, with respect to the NCERT, when we study, climate topics becomes very, very important. It is little technical also, and along with it, a lot of dimensions that come which generally intrigue students that how to understand them. So please students, remember one thing, though we will be focusing completely on the NCERT, there will be certain other things that I have incorporated in this particular lecture. We will not go into advanced topics because please remember, we have already told you that it is based on the NCERT. So we will restrict to what is mentioned, though certain other topics, little bit topics can be added in order to comprehensively explain you certain topic. Let us say mechanism of monsoon. Like for example, when you do climatology in the physical geography part of the world, where you study the various dimensions related to jet streams, pressure gradient, winds, a lot of stuff over there. So we will not go into all those technicalities here. We will be explaining certain part and then moving ahead. So let us begin today's lecture and see what is in store for you. Please remember, this is the Telegram account. Many students keep on asking me, sir, where we will find the notes and all. So please remember, this is a Telegram account where you can find the notes. Whatever I'm writing over here will be posted here. So let's begin today's lecture, that is climate. The first thing that comes into our mind is, what do you mean by climate? But when we study climate, then another word comes into our mind, what is weather? So these two things should be very clear before we actually begin with the chapter. See, when I talk about climate, what does climate means? Climate basically refers to an average weather conditions of a region over a long period of time, typically 30 years or even more. Let us assume when we say India has a monsoon type of a climate, now it doesn't mean that it is for a very short period. Or let us say some regions are, let us say, having a polar climate. It doesn't mean it is for few days. It is an outcome of long years that the particular region has been described as, let us say, polar. Similarly, when I talk about weather, it is basically a short-term conditions or atmospheric conditions that a particular region is experiencing. So, weather is a short-term atmospheric conditions at a specific place at a specific time. So these are two major definitions. So if I want to differentiate, to better understand that, so let's see. If I want to differentiate, what is the duration? It is basically short term. When I talk about climate, it is a long term, because obviously when you're talking about polar climate, the polar climate doesn't mean it is few days or weeks. It is a very long term, long word, long duration. Similarly, climate is long term. Weather is somewhat specific to small region with reference to smaller time. Let us say you are living in a particular region, whether it is a monsoon type of climate that you're experiencing, there can be certain disturbances. Someday it is foggy, someday it might rain, someday it might be very hot. So those are specific days, a few days. So that is again weather of that particular region for that specific place for a specific time. So overall, we all know that we experience monsoon type of climate. Yes. So the scope is it is local and specific area. And this is regional to the global scale. Change. Now this changes rapidly and frequently. Over here, changes slowly over decades and centuries, because we very well know that India, not only India, the whole world is experiencing global warming. So there are going to be climatic changes that take place, right? When I take examples, let us say a thunderstorm, a sunny day, or fog that is there. Now this represents the weather conditions. When I talk about climate, let us say polar climate, tropical, temperate climate. Now these are also climates, right? Now, very important thing comes is, if let us say you specialize in study of weather, What would that discipline be called? That is known as meteorology. That is known as meteorology. Now, if you specifically study with respect to climate, then discipline is called climatology. Climatology, right? So these are the differences between climate and weather. Clear? Let's move ahead. Okay. The next important things that come is important for you is then, so what are the factors determining the climate of India? We're studying India, so we'll focus on that. What are the factors? Now see, when a word has been written, by default you realize that in the examination, if you write the word and do not explain it with an example, you will not get marks. This is not an examination of class 10th or 11th, because though you are reading the NCERTs, but you're writing for UPSC. You need to give proper examples. And merely writing example is fine in certain cases, but if you draw some diagrams, draw some maps, show some illustrations, then the marks are really very nice that are given by the examiner. Now let's see. Relief or physiography. That certain regions have little, let us say, certain relief structure. Let us say some mountains might be present. Let us say plateau, that means a height is there. So relief or physiography tends to impact the climate of region. Let's see. For example, let us see Western Ghats. Let's just see Western Ghats, first of all. If you see the boundary of India, now if you see here, we have the Western Ghats, right? Just roughly I'm drawing it. Now do you realize something, that from this particular region, monsoon laden winds come? Monsoon laden winds come. The moment they encounter the Western Ghats, you realize they shed their rain. Now if I see this from this particular angle, see here, let me see these mountains from a lateral angle. Let us assume these are the Western Ghats, right? Now you realize that when the monsoon winds come, they basically encounter the Western Ghats. Now, because of the mountain, they are forced to rise up. Rise. As they rise, the temperature decreases. So automatically there will be rainfall. Right? Right? So what will happen? Condensation takes place. So you will realize that there will be clouds formation. There will be cloud formation, and a lot of rainfall will take place. Now this particular region, which is encountering the winds directly, and it is receiving rainfall also, is known as windward side. Windward side. Now we very well know that, okay, it doesn't mean that this portion does not receive any rainfall. Yes, there will be certain amount of rainfall that will cross here also, and some rainfall will be here also, a little bit. In comparison to the windward side, very less. That is known as leeward side. Leeward side. Now, do you realize that this particular region throughout the year will be experiencing a situation where the conditions, the climatic conditions will be wet? Because it lies on the windward side. Yes? So, Western Ghats over here relief tends to influence the regions that are present over here. Let us say Mumbai. Now, Mumbai receives a lot of rain. Yes, so this can be one example. Now, please remember, when you draw these examples or draw these small illustrations, that give you a lot of marks. So you can use them and explain it in 1 or 2 lines. Let us see Mausam Ram in the Khasi Hills in Meghalaya. If you see over here, let us put it is in the Meghalaya. If, let us assume, let us study this in a very proper manner. When we study about the northeastern region, you realize that okay, you know that there is Garo Hills. Sorry. You have here Garo Hills, Khasi, and Jaintia, right? Now, Mausam Ram basically lies in the eastern side of the Khasi Hills, right? Let us say this position, this particular position. Now, have you ever thought or experiences why this particular region is the wettest region? Why does this have such climatic conditions where it receives so much rainfall? Now, there is a very important concept that is to be understood, particularly with Mausam Ram and Cherrapunji both, but more relevant with respect to Mausam Ram because it is one of the wettest region across the world. Now, see why. How physiography is impacting it. Let us see here. The location of Mausam Ram is such that it experiences a concept that is known as funneling effect. What it is known as funneling effect. Now, let's see what is funneling effect. Let us assume there are certain mountains present, right? Now let us assume these are mountains that are present. And what is going on is Mausam Ram, let us say, is present in this place situation. Let us assume. What happens is when the monsoon laden winds basically enter this, when it enters it, unlike other regions like Western Ghats where it encounters the Western Ghats, certain winds might move up, move this direction, some might encounter and produce rain. That is fine. Over here, what happens is when the monsoon laden winds enter, they are trapped. They are trapped and they're forced to move over here. What do you mean by trapping? This is known as funneling effect. When you have a funnel, let us say you have a jar, you put a funnel, whatever you put, has to go through that small funnel point that is placed there, right? Similarly, Mausam Ram is here. So what happens is all the winds are directed towards here and it is forced to shed rain over here. So what is happening? Due to the funneling effect, due to the funneling effect, all the monsoon laden winds are directed towards 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 Mausam Ram. Towards Mausam Ram. So what is it happening? Relief and physiography. This is how it is impacting. So this is some of the examples. Please remember the examination, you can write one line and then just draw a little bit diagrams or graphs or these figures. These are going to enhance your answers and really fetch you marks. People will say we do not have the time. Please understand, if you practice them, write one line and draw a diagram, it fetches you more marks than simply writing paragraphs. Clear? Let's move ahead. Next is altitude. We have two examples, Mount Abu and with respect to Amritsar and Shimla. Let's take this example. When I see Mount Abu and Shimla, do you realize something? Let's make a map of India. Now remember one thing, I don't have to always make the map of complete India because that is not required. What is interesting over here is, see, here lies, at the border lies Amritsar. Here lies Shimla. Here lies Amritsar, here lies Shimla. Both of them are at the same latitude, approximately the same latitude. So what do you see? This is Amritsar. This is Shimla. Both of them at the same latitude. But if you ask today, you are experiencing really a time where it's very humid, it is very hot, right? Irony is, what is the reason? What is the reason why there is so much variation? Both lie approximately at the same latitude. The reason is altitude. The reason is altitude. Whereas supposingly you are experiencing temperatures of close to late 40s or very late 30s or 40s, in Shimla you might be experiencing close to temperature of 20s, even less. It's raining, so it is even less. Why? Because of the altitude. Concept lies As you move higher, as your height increases or the altitude increases, the temperature decreases. So understand this. The variation is with respect to altitude. What happens with the increase in altitude? With the increase in altitude, temperature decreases. Temperature decreases. Now this is very well relevant in the troposphere. You know that as we study climatology, which we will study later on, not over here, you realize there are a lot of layers in the atmosphere and there is a lot of variation with respect to rise or decrease in the temperature. But when you're talking about troposphere, you realize that as you move ahead, move higher in the altitude, the temperature will decrease. Yeah, let's move ahead. Let's see Mount Abu now. Now Mount Abu is also very interesting over here. Let's make again specifically the western part of India. Now what do you see here is the Aravalli range, right? The Aravalli range. Now you see Mount Abu basically lying over here, right? Now this is the region that is in Rajasthan, right? The temperatures are really very soaring high. How come Mount Abu has pleasant climatic conditions? It is because of the altitude at which it is placed, which is 1722 meters above the sea level. Now, see here, that is the reason. Because of the altitude, the temperatures are very low compared to the surrounding regions. Right? Done? Let's move ahead. Mumbai and Delhi. Now, please understand, very clear. If you see the map of India also, right? If you see the map of India, let's see. Let's not make the complete map. Let's just if I just see the situation over here, we realize that Mumbai is somewhat here, Delhi is somewhat here, right? Now, if you see, what is the difference that is being created? Mumbai here, Delhi here, right? Both very important places, important metropolitan places. When you see the climatic conditions, what do you see over here? This region is experiencing continentality. What do you mean by continentality? That means it is very far away from the ocean or sea. Now, what is Mumbai experiencing? It is every day experiencing the influence of the sea, moderating influence of the sea. So that is why you realize the variability with respect to temperature is not very high in case of Mumbai. And that in case of Delhi, it's very high. During the winter's time, you will be realizing that the temperature might fall down to even, let us say, close to -1 also. It has gone down many times. During the summer months, it has gone down to 45 and 50 also. The conditions are dismal. Why is this? Because of the distance from the sea. So the climatic conditions are influenced by the distance from the sea. So these are two examples. If you want to take another example also, let us take over here Nanded. Now, Nanded is also a part of Maharashtra, which is basically lying on the eastern side of Maharashtra. Over there also it is interior of India. Over there also you'll be realizing extremes of climate being present, right? So distance from the sea also experiences or basically impacts the climate of any region because in the region which is exposed to the sea will have lesser variability, moderating influence of the sea, and in case of those which are far off will never be able to experience this. Let's move ahead. Distribution of land and water. Now, this is something very interesting, especially for India. Many people will say, sir, we can put distance of sea under the distribution of land and water only. Absolutely, you can. But again, why I have mentioned this? Because NCERT mentions it very specifically as a different point. Clear? And why it becomes important over here is that if I study India, India basically experiences a monsoon type of climate, right? Now, see here. Now, if you see here, do you realize India has such a long coastline? Yeah. Now, India has such a long coastline. You have realized this. It is surrounded by water on all these sides. Now you realize that this is land. This is your land. This is your sea or ocean, water, Indian Ocean, you can say. Now, what happens here? What happens over here? Please understand. It is because of this condition you realize India is able to experience monsoon type of climate. What do we say when we talk about monsoon? We say reversal of wind is taking place, right? During the southwest monsoon that is coming, we see monsoon coming from the sea towards the land. Northeast monsoon again from the land portion moving towards the sea. So there is a reversal of winds that is basically associated with monsoon. So monsoon conditions, a monsoon type of climate is possible because of this condition, because of land and sea being present. So can we say monsoon climate has been possible because of this. You understand this? That is why India's climate, which is monsoon type, is also associated with the distribution of land and water. That is a major important reason for what the climate India experiences. Clear? Let's move ahead. Latitude. Now, if you see, when I talk about Kanyakumari and Delhi, do you realize that both of them again very important places? Kanyakumari is the southernmost tip of the mainstream India. Right? See here. Okay. Now, if I put Kanyakumari here, let's say, you know, Delhi over here. Now, do you realize one thing? This particular region is part of the experiencing a tropical climate. Tropical climate. And do you realize Delhi is experiencing a temperate climate? Yes or no? Because of the variation in the latitude. Agree? So do you remember one thing, that one that is closer in the tropical region, when you're closer to the equator, the extremes of temperature are not there. Because you realize that throughout the year, you realize that you're close to the equator, so it is going to be relatively moderating influence happens, because the range or the changes in the temperature are not so high when you see the equatorial regions. On the other hand, when you move there, you see the variations are there. It is relatively colder during the colder times. So Kanyakumari, if you see the annual range of temperature overall, you will see the variation is not high. In case of Delhi, you see the wide variation of temperature is there. So this is again one of the dimensions with respect to latitude. Obviously, we realize tropical. There is a reason also got to do with the influence of the sea also, but when we are talking about one particular point, let us focus on that at a time. Let us not mix sort of points, because any particular region which is experiencing a particular temperature or rainfall has got to do with mix of many factors. But over here, we are taking one by one, right? So latitude. Next is the Himalayan mountains. Now let's see. In the previous lectures, you have already studied a lot about this. Now just all of you remember, can you recall how these mountain ranges, which we had mentioned earlier, was broken on all? How are these important with respect to climate? Do you realize it prevents the colder winds that are going to come from the Siberian region are not able to come to India? Are not able to come to India. Why? Because of this Great Barrier. This Great Barrier not only separates two types of climate, but also separates two cultures. You very well know that environmental conditions do are also responsible not only for the obviously the geographical regions which we see, or mountains we see, they're not only separating as a climatic divide, but also dividing two cultures. Because based on a geography or the climatic conditions, various cultures are formed. Now, had this not been there, do you realize all this would have been frozen during the time of your winters? Yes, absolutely. So it prevents the colder winds from the Siberian region from coming to the mainstream or the mainland India. Yes. So it is also protecting India from those colder winds. So it is already dividing two types of climate situations and two cultures. Yes. So let's move ahead. Okay. Some basic concepts. Please remember this. Something very important here. Please note it down. Because we will be covering the physical geography part. That is again the class 11th book with respect to geomorphology, climatology, oceanography. Over there, we do a lot of details. Over here, we cannot go into a lot of detail, as I had mentioned previously also. But little bit of concepts, little bit of definition you should know before I go on to teach you the concept of monsoon and then the season. So let us see first. First is the ITCZ, Intertropical Convergence Zone. What it is? You would have already studied about trade winds and all previously also. So if you see here, it is a belt of low pressure near the equator where the trade winds converge. Now, which all trade winds are converging? You realize northeast trade winds converging with the southeast trade winds. Now, this region is known as a intertropical convergence zone. Please understand one thing. Many people assume that this is a complete belt. Please understand this concept. It is not a complete belt. These are basic. Many people assume that this is like a complete belt. It is not. It is basically comprised of regions like these. This is a real figure, which is, this is what? This is what one is shown or one expects. This is generally what? Shown. This is what is a reality. Low pressure, low pressure. These are the actual reality. It is not simply a line. These are small low pressure belts that are present there. Clear? So moreover, first of all, you should know is that it is basically the convergence zone of the two types of trade winds. That is the northeast trade winds and the southeast trade winds. That leads to the formation of what is known as the intertropical convergence zone. Now, please understand, you realize very categorically you should be knowing that. Must have studied also with respect to climatic and climatic pressure belts also, that with the seasons change, obviously you realize the belts tend to move up and down. During the summer times, this intertropical convergence zone will move upwards. During the winter time, it will move downwards. So this is also, again, a movement is also present there. Clear? Let's move ahead. Next concept is the jet stream. Now please understand, jet stream topic we will be covering in detail when we will doing the other book of NCERT, but over here a little bit detail should be known to you because we are going to study this in the monsoon topic. See, what are jet streams? Jet streams are very fast moving upper atmospheric winds that meander in a narrow path. Now these are thousands of kilometers long and following a meandering path. So these are now very useful with respect to study of the monsoon winds and how they impact we will be studying also. Now, just to show you, please understand there are a lot of permanent jet streams and there are a lot of temporary jet streams that are created. Permanent jet streams are there almost flowing throughout the year. Temporary are those which are created because of certain shifting in the pressure belts or the climatic conditions that happen. So let us see some. If you see here, these are two. This is subtropical jet stream. It is also known as subtropical westerly jet stream. Subtropical westerly jet stream. Again, this is also subtropical westerly because it is flowing from west to east. Now see here, this is known as polar jet stream in the polar region. Again, polar jet stream here. Now these are some of the permanent jet streams that are flowing. Permanent. There might be some temporary, like the easterly jet stream, the Somali jet stream. Now these are temporary jet streams that are created. Yeah, this is a brief idea you should be knowing. Now let's see. Let us understand, first of all, please remember, now you will be asking, sir, why are we studying this word monsoon first? You should be teaching us what the seasons are. Absolutely. We will be studying that also. But remember, whenever you study the various seasons in India, whether you're studying the hot weather season, whether you're studying the cold weather seasons, but with whatever season you're studying, you tend to associate it with monsoon, some or the other way. So please understand, understanding monsoon as done in the NCERT also, that they've explained monsoon and the mechanism, though we will be going a little bit into detail, but we will be studying monsoon first and then the various seasons, so it is easier for you to comprehend. Let us begin with the understanding of monsoon. Now, the basic understanding, when we say about monsoon, there are a lot of interpretations that are given by various thinkers that from where this word has been originated. Now, some say that it is an Arabic word mosim. Some say it is a Malayalam word monsoon, which again both of them mean season. Again mean season. Now please understand, the monsoon basically means the reverse their direction, the winds reverse their direction as they flow with respect to the season. Clear? Now please understand, what does the word monsoon mean? Monsoon means that there is seasonal reversal in the direction of the winds. What do you mean by monsoon? It means there is a seasonal reversal in the direction of the winds. What do you mean by that? Let us assume during this time, particularly during this July-August month, which you are right now seeing this particular lecture, do you realize that a lot of monsoon winds are coming? Now, these monsoon-laden winds are basically coming from the Indian Ocean region. Yes? Now, do you realize over there, they are coming from the oceans and entering India and then obviously distributing rainfall towards various parts? During the winter months, northeast monsoon will be there, which you will be seeing moving from the land towards the Indian Ocean. Now, is there a reversal of the direction of the winds? Yes, it is. So in simple words, it is monsoon is basically understood as a seasonal reversal in the direction of the winds with a change in the season. Clear? Let us move ahead on this particular topic. Now comes the word mechanism of monsoon. Please understand, when I talk about mechanism, what do you understand by mechanism? When I say mechanism, I means how the working of monsoon is taking place. How does the monsoon originate? Or what are the processes that are involved? If I see, can I see in this way? How is it originating? What are the processes involved? How is it originating? What are the processes involved? Along with it, please understand, what are the variations in those processes and the various concepts that are there? So, various views or contradictions that are there, right? What does the main meaning over here means, that how is this monsoon process doing, or what are the process involved and how it works? In a way, can I also say how it works in simple way? How it works? Now, based on them, please understand, the reality is, till now we have not been able to identify the exact reasons for which all these things can be answered. So there is no exact mechanism. So what do we see? There is, till now, we cannot say what is the exact mechanism. What is the exact mechanism? What is the exact mechanism? So what we are doing, but certain processes have been observed to cause or slash impact the monsoon, which we study as the mechanism. Do you understand this? What do you mean by this? The reality is today, if you ask me, sir, can you give me the exact reason why the monsoon originates? What are the forces? Give me all forces that are involved there. I will say, bache, exactly we cannot tell. If this was known, do you realize there are so much money being spent by the government in those meteorological departments and those Earth Science Ministry, along with various other countries involved? Are they always able to predict the exact reasons? No. Many times they are wrong. Why? Because even the scientists till now are not able to decipher it. So, but in spite of that, let us in brief study what are the various forces, what are the dimensions involved. Now, in the NCERT, some things are mentioned. I'm going a little bit more in detail. We will not go into a lot of detail because again, we are confining ourselves to NCERT. So I'm using those words which are mentioned and a little bit extra, but we will not go into a lot of detail. So you should be knowing till here, because when we will cover the other book of NCERT, we'll be going into all of details over there, right? Let's move ahead. First is the thermal concept. Thermal concept basically is a very old concept. Now it is somewhat neglected because better views have been given. Old concept, even mentioned as a classical theory. It is neglected because of various reasons, I'll tell you, but please see over here. This is the thermal concept which was given by Halley, which basically says that monsoons are basically like land and sea breezes on a larger scale. It says that during the summer months, the continental part over here gets heated a lot, and that is why it attracts the monsoon-laden winds towards the land. During the winter months, it becomes cold, and relatively the oceans are relatively warmer in comparison to the land, so winds tend to move out. This is what the mechanism or is according to the Halley or thermal concept. Made a hypothesis that the primary cause for the Indian monsoon circulation was the differential heating of the land and sea. That means both land and sea are being heated differently. So that is why a large scale land and sea breeze are being caused. So that is what is monsoon. So again, this is very contradictory, very wrong also. The reason behind it is because if this was the case, then every place around the world would have experienced monsoon, which is not the case. So this is okay, forms a foundation for the mechanism, but not a complete mechanism, we will say. That is why it is known as a classical theory or an antiquated or an old theory. But you should be knowing it. Let's move ahead. Next is the Tibetan Plateau and the tropical easterly jet stream. Please remember one thing. We will be, as I had told you, that jet streams what I'll be using. There's certain things that you should remember. In the NCERT, there is very particular thing that is mentioned. The onset of the tropical easterly jet stream marks the beginning of the monsoon. Please remember, we will be studying this, don't worry. We will be studying this. Two things. First is tropical westerly jet stream moving above the Himalayas, and onset of the tropical easterly jet stream marks the beginning of the monsoon. This is a word that is mentioned, and this becomes very important. Again, repeating. The movement of the tropical westerly jet stream upward, that means north of the Himalayas, and that leads to onset of creation of the tropical easterly jet stream These two processes are known or to be considered by the scientist that will lead to onset of monsoon. Now you will say, sir, is it always the case? But see, what we generally see is it is not about onset always. It is basically, these are markers. That when you see, okay, the tropical easterly jet stream, I said that means, okay, we will be having a monsoon soon. Or what is the strength of the tropical easterly jet stream? It is very strong. That means we will be having a, let us say, a better monsoon. So now let us understand how this mechanism basically works. Now see, when I talk about Tibetan Plateau or tropical easterly jet stream, let us see the diagram first and then I'll make you understand. First thing, though I assume you would be knowing, but let me make it very clear. Any region which is, let us say, having a very high temperature will be experiencing what? Will be experiencing what? Low pressure. Now see, let me tell you this also, because sometimes what happens is many candidates are not able to understand this concept. See here everybody. This is a region, let us assume. Let us see this, because this forms the basics again. It is expected of you, but let us understand this. Let us say this is a region A. Region A. Clear? Now, if I say this region has a very high temperature, or let's just say high temperature. But you just tell me one thing. Let us take, you've seen this. This is a region. This is very high temperature. Now let us take your example. Let us assume you are sitting on an iron chair. Clear? Let us assume you are sitting on an iron chair. Now let us assume I put a fire below that chair and let us say the chair starts heating. The moment the chair gets hot, you will jump from that chair. Yes or no? Why did you jump? You basically jumped because the temperature of the chair became very high. That means if I see the air that is in this region, if that it is being heated because due to the, let us say, the sun radiations and all, if it is being heated, you realize the air over here will rise. The air over here will rise. Now just tell me one thing. When you were sitting on that chair, you were exerting some pressure on that chair, but because the temperature became high, you basically jumped from there. That means the pressure that you were exerting on the chair decreased. Yes or no? Yes or no? So that means pressure that was you were exerting is not there now. Similarly, when the air basically rises, it leads to low pressure being created. So any region which has temperature, now please understand, low pressure and high pressure are very relative. Two regions both can have high temperature, but they can be low or high pressure in comparison to each other. Do you understand that? Higher the difference between, let us say, higher the difference in the pressure, better will be the impact when we study the monsoon or the movement of the winds. We'll be studying that also. I'm telling you over here. Just remember, wait for 2 minutes. Let us assume this is another region. Region B. Now, by default, if certain air is rising, it might move somewhere. Right? Now, see here. Let's see this. This air is risen. Obviously, it has gone to the upper atmosphere. Now, these are the regions which we say movement of the winds in the upper atmosphere. The winds which you see at the lower level are the ground level winds or lesser altitude winds. The major winds over here are also over here, the upper atmospheric winds over here. Now, moving up over here, these are the upper atmospheric winds. Now, they will be sinking at some point. Now, when these winds, now the sinking of the wind will take place. So, air is sinking over here. So, what will happen? It will create high pressure here. High pressure regions. Now, please understand this. Please understand this. Everybody understood? Now, please understand. This is the upper atmosphere. Now please understand, these are two regions. Now when the wind over here, let us say this is high pressure, this is low pressure. Now the air has risen. So by default, some air will move in order to occupy this place. So air will move here. Air will move here. Many people will get confused with the fact, sir. First thing you need to understand, air moves from high pressure to low pressure. This is clear? Or the wind movement will take place from high pressure to low pressure. Now you ask, sir, over here in the upper atmosphere, why is the reversal happening? Beta, understand, over here, this is not low pressure. This is not low pressure over here. These are again advanced concept. I'm just telling you why. At the ground level, when you're seeing high pressure to low pressure winds are moving, over here, man, where people will be thinking, sir, this is assuming like it is moving from low pressure to high pressure. No, bache. What happens if you see the advanced concept? When there is low pressure over here, it is high pressure is induced in the upper atmosphere. And similarly, high pressure is here, so low pressure is induced in the upper atmosphere. That is why also it is high to low. So please understand this. What your concept should be, the winds move from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure. Because in the low pressure, when the winds rise, there has to be some winds moving or moving to that region in order to occupy that place. This is a concept. That is what, when we were studying with respect to this particular region, Halley's concept also, this had also given from very broad format that, okay, this is a low pressure region, so high pressure regions are existing in the region of the ocean, so the monsoon laden winds are moving, a broad scale of land and sea breeze, right? So now coming to the concept of Tibetan Plateau and tropical easterly jet stream. Let us study this because I wanted to explain you this before I move on to this particular topic. See here. During the summer months, just before when we say the monsoon processes are going to start, do you realize over here that this is the Tibetan Plateau? Now, Tibetan Plateau is a massive land. Due to the heating, do you realize, due to the heating of this region, a low pressure will be created? Yes? Low pressure created. That is why this region is known as Tibetan Low. Right? Tibetan Low. Now, please understand. Over here, the air will rise. Air will rise. Now it will move downwards. And it will sink at a region which is known as Mascarene Basin. Mascarene Basin. And because a sinking of air is taking place, it will create a high pressure over here. What it is doing? Creating a high pressure here. Now please understand, this is what upper atmospheric winds. Now please understand a very important thing. This process is fine, but during this mechanism, if the scientist or geographers, or you can say meteorologist, observe that within the upper air movement, a tropical easterly jet stream, that means a very fast moving wind that is created, which is moving at a very rapid pace over here among the upper air circulations or the movement that is taking place, then we realize that, what did I say? Onset of monsoon will take place. Just keep in mind these theories. So what we are saying is, upward movement of air, it will move down and sink towards the Mascarene Basin. Now, before we study this, let us understand, because it is high here, so there will be movement of certain amount of winds at the lower level also. Now these will bring the monsoon winds towards the Indian subcontinent region. Now these are upper air. Upper air are very close to the in the upper regions of the troposphere, even close to tropopause. It is very high. Now, these are not very high. These are relatively ground level, you can say. So that is why, please understand. Now what happens? See here. If the tropical easterly jet stream originates, that means a fast moving wind is created. It will be created because there is very strong low pressure created here, a very strong high pressure created. So where we realize that a very fast moving jet stream is temporarily created in this particular region. Now this is what? tropical easterly jet stream, which I'll be showing, this is temporary in nature. This basically aids the fastening of this process, and more amount of monsoon laden winds will move in this direction, and it will create a strong monsoon. Now let us see for 2 minutes what is the content which I have written. Let's see. During the summer months, there is a heating of the Tibetan plateau, creating a low pressure. We have already seen low, Tibetan low. Due to the heating, the air becomes light here and it rises close to the troposphere. Yes, in the troposphere, to be precise, to close to the tropopause for that matter. It will now start moving towards the Madagascar island and sink at the Mascarene Basin, creating a Mascarene high. What is Mascarene high? Mascarene Basin when they are having a high pressure. Now, the upper air develops a temporary tropical easterly jet stream. Now it develops a temporary jet stream. Now, please understand, stronger the tropical easterly jet stream, stronger is our monsoon that is basically observed here. So if this is created, it is stronger. That means this process is taking place faster. So more monsoon-laden winds will be directed towards India and Indian subcontinent, and stronger monsoon will be there. Please remember, onset of the tropical easterly jet stream is again marked by the outburst of monsoon as written in the NCERT. So you should remember this. Clear? Let us move ahead. Next is temporary Somali jet stream. Now please understand, these are again, now as I told you that we have a lot of permanent jet streams also, but there are a lot of temporary jet streams which might be created in certain seasons. These are one of those. Now the temporary Somali jet stream which is created is close to this Horn of Africa. Now this Somali jet stream is again not a very high altitude jet stream, please remember. It is low altitude jet stream. This is a very unique characteristic of the Somali jet stream. That is what we have written. It is a low level stream originating only in summer near the Horn of Africa. Now what happens is, it basically originates here. It divides into two branches because it is not very high. So we cannot refer to them as the upper air circulation or movement of air. These are relatively at the close to the ground level, not very close to the ground level. So what is going on is, these move, one part moves towards the Africa, Somalian region, other move towards India. Now, because it is not very high altitude, lower level, its movement towards India will force the monsoon winds also be directed towards India. Its movement will also force the monsoon winds also to be directed towards India. Now this basically also impacts the Somali current also moving towards India, right? So that is why this is the Somali jet stream SJS that I have written. So what I have written, it tends to push the monsoon winds towards India. Stronger the Somali current as an outcome of stronger Somali jet stream, stronger is the monsoon. So if the stronger Somali jet stream is there, it will push more monsoon wind towards India, and that will lead to a stronger monsoon also. Again, this is one of the mechanisms or the reasons for which when we study monsoon. Please remember, if you say, sir, is this 100% reason which it is responsible for this, but there might be cases where the effect of Somali might not be sometimes strong, sometimes it might be strong. So a lot of variations are existing. That is why I said no 100% reason is given anywhere. These are the possible reasons impacting the monsoon, right? Let's move ahead. Now comes the tropical westerly jet stream. Please understand this. We had already studied, these are some of those important jet streams that are there. These are some of the permanent jet streams that are there. Now what happens is, when the tropical westerly jet stream basically comes across this Himalayas, it is basically divided into two branches because of the height of the Himalayas. Now what happens is, one portion is lying towards the north, other is lying towards the south. Now this part of the tropical westerly jet stream lying in the northern plain right now. Basically this condition is lying in the northern plain. Now what happens is, it lying in the northern plain creates somewhat a high pressure like situation over here. And that is why what happens, till the time this moves towards the north, a proper low pressure condition will not be created in the northern plain. And once it moves upwards, we realize that there is again a creation of the tropical easterly jet stream which we had studied. So these things are again linked. Most of the time when we observe, these are linked, and that is what the scientists have basically come as a conclusion, and that is what is mentioned in the NCERT also. Now what happens is, Now this is initially what? Low pressure, high pressure conditions being created. That is why the monsoon winds would not be attracted. Now when I say high pressure, it does not mean it becomes cold. No, it means relatively higher pressure. Please remember this. Please remember this. Now I'm giving you an example. If some region have 100, hypothetically having 100 degrees Celsius, other is having 95 degrees Celsius. Both are very high temperature, but do you realize this will have relatively more lower pressure than in comparison to this region? Yes. So please understand this. High pressure, low pressure are very relative concepts. Clear? Now, let us assume this. Moment we see that, the moment we see that after some time, the shifting of this particular branch also towards the north. That means shifting of the tropical westerly jet stream further towards the north. That means its one branch does not lie here now. We will see the mechanism in which tropical easterly jet stream will also start flowing, and a low pressure is induced over here. And it will push further the monsoon laden winds towards the Indian subcontinent region. So tropical westerly jet stream also play a very important role. Clear? Rubbing this again. The tropical westerly jet stream completely move northwards, leading to the creation of a low pressure system which basically attracts the monsoon laden winds. Another very important thing is other equatorial troughs. I had already mentioned to you when I was talking about ICCR, Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, that it is not simply a line, right? When we see that ITCZ is basically lying in the upper east over here, during the time when monsoon is, we see that monsoon is at about 2 billion. But sometimes what happens is, in the Indian Ocean, some low pressure troughs or some low pressure might be created. Again, it is temporary in nature. What generally happens is that because low pressure is here, we expect low pressure majorly to be in the Indian northern plains. So if very strong low pressure is there in the Indian northern plains, more winds would be attracted. But if there is a low pressure, secondary low pressure due to certain circumstances it is created here, the monsoon winds will not completely move towards the Indian subcontinent because already low pressure is here. Because winds move from a region of high pressure to low pressure is visible here. So please understand this, that it acts as a deterrence towards India receiving a monsoon or a strong monsoon. So this is also other equatorial troughs that might be created. So these are known as secondary equatorial troughs. This again becomes very important for the holistic understanding of the monsoon. Clear? This is another point. Next point comes is the Indian dipole El Nino. Please understand. This is a mechanism that you should understand, becomes very important. Supposingly, now see, I'm linking both of them, though they're not directly linked, because please understand there are many theories which say that dipole and El Nino are completely different. Some even say that El Nino has got very less relationship with monsoon. Some say it has got a lot of relationship. Please understand. If I am telling you this concept, there might be certain books and videos and concepts which might contradict to this. Why? As we have already studied this, that there have been a lot of exceptions. Where supposingly we have El Nino, but due to certain other factor, we should still have good monsoon. Yes, you might have Indian dipole. Over there, you realize that there might be cases that because of that, you might have good rainfall, but there are certain other factors which tend to decrease the rainfall. So please understand that it is not single factor that is responsible. completely linkage of these concepts also to Indian monsoon cannot be completely justified till now. So when you see this video, please understand there are multiplicity of views that exist over here. Clear? Let's see. Please understand what happens in the Indian dipole. We have studied this, that Tibetan plateau creates a low pressure over here, and then tropical easterly jet stream goes here. Then there is a high pressure created because sinking of the winds is taking place. At the ground level, you realize that these winds at the ground level move, and again that force the monsoon-laden winds also to move towards the Indian subcontinent. Please understand, some of the winds move towards this particular region, that is in the Pacific side, right? Ground level. And what happens is, because it is moving here, a low pressure is created here. The winds over here rise, upper air circulations and upper air winds move and again sinks at the Mascarenes Basin. Now, do you realize something? In this particular case, Indian dipole case, where you realize if there is a low pressure over here and there is a high pressure in the Mascarenes Basin, this will lead to a good monsoon being there. Why? Because see here, low pressure here means winds, upper air winds or air moving and sinking here. That means more aggravated high pressure will be created. More high pressure is there, that means more movement will take place towards the low pressure also. And then again this circulation will lead to stronger monsoon winds basically going. Clear? Now, if let us say this is replaced by let us say high pressure or some other situation, will this situation completely change? Yes. So when we refer to the Indian dipole, it basically refers to whether the relationship over here is high or low. High or low. If you realize that there is low pressure, it will be basically leading to a very good monsoon. If it is high pressure over here, it will lead to a bad monsoon. Yeah. Clear? Now let us link it with the concept of El Nino. When we study about El Nino, please understand, in El Nino what happens is, it is a process which is basically dealing with the Pacific Ocean, where a high pressure is created in the region over here and a low pressure along the South American region. Now please understand that over here sinking of air is taking place, and then ground level winds are moving along with it. It tends to take the water also towards this side and creating a warmer region over here. So again a low pressure is created. Now please understand, if a low pressure is created here, let's see here, if a high pressure is created here instead of low pressure, do you realize this movement will reverse? That means the air that is rising here and sinking here will decrease. This will decrease. That means the high pressure which was aggravated or very strong will not be as it is in this particular case. So the monsoon laden winds which we have to go towards the Tibetan plateau will also be not as strong. That is why you realize that this Indian dipole system and the El Nino concept are impacting each other in some or the other way. What is El Nino? El Nino basically refers to warming of this particular region or the Peru region, that is in the South African region, South American region, and leading to a colder or a higher pressure being created over here, because warm water is being basically accumulated over here. Now this leads to a lot of pressure with respect to fishes and all. That is a separate causes. We are not studying that here. But high pressure being created here will completely destroy this cycle or impact it. That will lead to lesser monsoon coming here. So again, Indian dipole and El Nino are very aggravatedly impacting the monsoon through some studies. Some might contradict it also. So this is again another point. Let's move ahead. Coming to the seasons now. We have already studied the monsoon. Now you have know what the monsoon is. You know what the mechanism is. Now I can very quickly move ahead because this is very basic stuff. Again, I don't think there will be a lot of problem. When we talk about the cold weather season temperature, you realize that cold weather season, the seasons over here with respect to cold and warm are more marked in the northern part of the country, because over here you are far away from the oceans. The regions which are very close, let us say towards the south, let us say Kanyakumari regions, do not experience that much variation with respect to the temperature and rainfall also, because they already are close to the equator, and also they experience or they have an influence from the sea. The major marked or the variations are experienced in the northern part. Now see, temperatures, it starts in the mid-November in the northern India. December and January are again the coldest months in India, if you realize this. Daily mean temperature less than 21 in most parts of northern India. Now peninsular region do not have a defined cold season. Remember, These points that I have mentioned can be asked in your prelims because these are mentioned in the NCERT. The peninsular region does not have a defined cold region. Why? Because they are closer to the equator first, and they're closer to the sea. Both have an influence on the peninsular plateau, so they do not have a marked cold climate as we see in the northern hemisphere. Now, question arises, why do you have a relatively colder climate or climatic type or region when you study the northern part? There is a reason behind it. There are three reasons given in the NCERT. First, they are away from the sea, that is continentality. Snowfall in the Himalayas and the surrounding regions again also impact the surrounding regions, because again cold winds will be moving and impacting that region, so again it is cold. Cold winds from the Caspian Sea regions also come. So you have temperate cyclones also impacting the northern part of the India, and that basically leads to temperature fall. So these three regions have been mentioned in the NCERT, so please you should keep in mind. As we move ahead, pressure and wind pattern, we've already drawn this. By the end of December, 22nd December, you realize sun shines vertically over the Tropic of Cancer, that is southern hemisphere. Now the high pressure dominates the north, while the south has lightly low pressure. Now again, these are pressure. This can be again asked through certain lines being mentioned in your preliminary examination and in the mains in order to explain it. When we move ahead, rainfall, you realize that anticyclonic condition. Please understand, anticyclonic conditions means high pressure situation. Always remember this. Cyclonic means at the core is a low pressure. Again, these are concepts which you study in the physical geography part that we will be covering later on. Right now we're covering India. So automatically these concepts which little bit you have missed also, we will be covering there, so it will become clear, right? Thus not causing rain. But there are certain exceptions during this time also. Please remember, peak temperate cyclones from the Mediterranean region basically come and shed rain in the regions of even Punjab and parts of Gangetic Plain also to a certain extent. Tamil Nadu coast also experiences rain during that time, and Arunachal Pradesh and Assam also experience rain during that time. So these are certain regions and exception. Overall, there is no much rain. These are the regions which experiences some form of rain. Hot weather season. Now again, this region again, when we realize with respect to northern India, becomes more important because we are away from the sea. So northern region experiences again a wide variation with respect to cold also and with respect to hot temperature also. So now the sun moves northwards from March, and northern India witness rising temperature. The temperature ranges from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. Northwestern part, that is including the parts of Rajasthan, Punjab also, these region experiences temperature up to 48 degrees Celsius. Nowadays, it has even gone beyond, right? Even the urban regions are experiencing temperatures close to this. Southern regions are mild summers between 26 to 32, again because of the influence of the sea, and again you're closer to the equatorial region, so they have a moderating influence with that respect also. When we see pressure and wind belts, intense summer heat leads to fall in the air pressure. Fall in the air pressure, that means heat is there, lower pressure will be created, right? ITCZ, intertropical convergence zone, as you see, it will be basically by July around 25 degree north latitude, thus creating a low pressure monsoon trough from Thar desert to Chota Nagpur. So the region from Thar to Chota Nagpur plateau, a somewhat a low pressure situation is created, right? Now please understand something. You will be asking something and there will be a doubt. When I said that there is a monsoon trough being created, you know, around July, come back again. So I think you should, so that your issue should also be resolved. When I said in this explanation also that this in tropical westerly jet stream is being there present, because see, when a monsoon trough is created in the upper atmosphere, some pressure, let us say a low pressure is there, it will create a high pressure, reverse pressure in the ground surface. That is why it led to the creation of a high pressure over there. Please remember that. This is something very clear. That is why upper air circulation and lower ground level pressure situation should be understood. Similarly, when you see here, a monsoon trough from Thar to Chota Nagpur plateau, low pressure situations are being created, not created, being created. During this time, local storms, strong winds and rain and even hailstorms are basically observed during this region. Now, if you see, there are a lot of local storms and regions which have been repeatedly asked in the papers also. Mango shower, Kerala and coastal Karnataka. These are pre-monsoon showers at the end of the summer, aids in the early ripening of the mangoes. That is why it is known as mango shower also. If you see over here, blossom shower, it is in Kerala, results in blossoming of the coffee flowers. If you see the third, that is Nor'westers or Kal Baisakhi. Over here, it is basically in Bengal and Assam, where dreaded evening thunderstorm are basically observed, beneficial for jute and rice cultivation. In Assam, it is known as Bardoli Chira. This has been asked multiple times in the various PCS examination and civil services examination. So please do know this and you should revise it and you should learn it. Next comes the southwest monsoon. See, by May, the intensifying pressure conditions over the northern hemisphere plains and the southeast trade winds from the southern hemisphere. So please understand. Now, pressure is further intensifying. Now, the impact would be automatically the trade winds from the southern hemisphere, which will also be attracted towards the north. So basically, when you realize they are moving from southeast direction, and when they cross the equator due to the Coriolis force, they become southwest. Yes, this is equator. Now these are southeast trade winds. The moment they cross the equator, they're towards the right, so they come as southwest monsoon winds. So crossing the equator, they turn right, southwest monsoon, and the burst of monsoon is basically sudden, sharp, and abrupt. That is why one of the characteristics of the monsoon also. Now, during the southwest monsoon, you realize there are major branches. Two branches are there, wherein Arabian Sea branch and there is a Bay of Bengal branch. Within the Arabian Sea branch, there are three divisions that take place. One is the Western Ghat branch, other is the Central Indian branch, and other is a Northwest Indian branch leading to Saurashtra, Peninsular, and Kutch. If I want to represent this, see here. First branch is the Western Ghats branch. So if you see the Arabian Sea, certain parts are basically coming and encountering the Western Ghats. These are not just representation in two. A lot of winds are basically coming just to represent it. These are coming and encountering the Western Ghats, shedding a lot of rain over here. Then there is another part. You realize they basically enters from the regions where you see Tapi and Narmada basically moving into the Arabian Sea. Over here, they enter from those valleys and basically go towards the interior. Again, shedding rainfall in certain parts. Then there is a third part which is basically crossing the Gujarat, because over here you realize Aravalli range is parallel to this, so it does not receive much rainfall, but some amount of rainfall might be received in certain regions over here. So this is again the three branches which we have studied over here. This is the first was a Western Ghat, Central Indian branch is this, and the third is this. Yeah. Now comes the other part, Bay of Bengal branch. Now in the Bay of Bengal branch also you realize that some go towards the Brahmaputra Valley, some towards the Garo and Khasi hills, and other westwards towards the Ganga plain. Now, very interesting thing is, please see here. Unlike the Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal branch basically loses a lot of strength, or majority of its strength, because it is shedding a lot of rain in the region of the Myanmar. So if you realize with respect to strength, you will be realizing that Arabian Sea branch will be more stronger. Why? Because majority of them is going towards Myanmar and those regions, and we're shedding a lot of rain there. So a very part or some part of it is basically coming towards India. So this is again towards Myanmar. Now, when you see certain part of it is basically being directed towards northeastern India. Some part is basically going towards this Garo Khasi. One part is going towards the Brahmaputra, and another part is basically moving towards the Gangetic Plains. Some of the amount of rainfall is basically shed in some parts, and some amount of rainfall is received even in the region of Punjab through this particular branch. Very interestingly. So if we see the three branches being mentioned, one is with respect to this Khasi, one is with respect to Brahmaputra, another is with respect to the Gangetic Plain. These are the 1, 2, and 3, just to represent it so you remember it. Yeah. Next, retreating monsoon. Again, the October and November are the phase where retreating monsoon happens. So slowly the monsoon which had reached are moving back again, because there is again shifting of the pressure belts towards the south. So by September, the southwest monsoon becomes weak, and due to the southward shifting of the pressure belts, by September end, it leaves the Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Western Ganga. By December, a complete exit basically happens, and we say it complete end to the monsoon. Now, some cyclonic influences lead to rainfall in certain regions of India in the deltas of Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri as seen. These cyclonic conditions have created regions close to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which basically move towards the deltatic regions of Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, and shedding certain rainfall over there. Right? Let's move ahead. Now, certain words with respect to traditional Indian seasons, please understand, this has been asked in the preliminary examination once. And I suppose once something is asked, there is a possibility it can be asked again also. So this is something that is rote learning. This is not something that, again, there can be some logics also, obviously, but again, these are some words which you study in the Indian culture also. Let's see. Season is Vasant, Chaitra to Vaisakha, March to April. Grishmam is Jesh to Asad, which is May to June. Varsha, which is basically you're experiencing right now, is Shravana and Bhadra from July to August. Sharda, that is Ashwina to Kartika, that is from September to October. Hemanta, Marghisra to Pausa to November and December. Shishira from Magha to Pahalguna, which is from January to February. Now, these are again words. Please understand, try to remember them. These are mentioned in the NCERT in a small box just before the end of the chapter. I have highlighted it. Why? Because it is very important. Because it is something your parents might be doing as normal parlance of speaking, but we generally do not. We generally remember these names. It becomes important you remember them. Let's move ahead. Distribution of rainfall. Please understand these questions can be asked. I've drawn a map using my using handmade maps. I've done this. There are classification that I've done. See, I have written over here also what is the high, low, and inadequate regions. Now let us see here one by one. Areas of high rainfall. Now please see. If I see areas of high rainfall, these are marked in red. This region, except for this Manipur region, you realize this region. So what is mentioned here? High rainfall where rainfall is greater than 200 centimeters. West coast on the Western Ghats, sub-Himalayan areas in the northeast and the hills of Meghalaya, Khasi and Jaintia hills, again rainfall greater than 1000 centimeter. So you know where this type of rainfall or very high rainfall is there, right? Greater than 200 centimeters. Now comes areas of medium rainfall, that is 100 to 200 centimeters. If you see, medium rainfall is 100 to 2 centimeters. That means this mentioned in this orange color, this complete part, this, and one surrounding the high rainfall region, right? Let's see here. Rainfall between 100 to 200, southern parts of Gujarat, eastern Tamil Nadu, Bihar, eastern Madhya Pradesh, northern Ganga Plains, Kachar Valley, Manipur, Odisha parts. These are the regions. Again, if you remember the map, you will not be able to forget it. Yeah. Let's move ahead. Next is areas of low rainfall between 50 to 100 centimeters. Let's see. This is 50 to 100. Now the regions which is marked in blue, this region are marked in blue. That is areas of low rainfall, that is 50 to 100 centimeters. Now let's see. Rainfall between 50 to 100, Western UP, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir region, Eastern Rajasthan, Gujarat and Deccan Plateau. Then comes the region for the least rainfall, inadequate rainfall. These are the regions. This region and this particular region, Karnataka, and obviously the Ladakh region and the Thar Desert region also. So these are inadequate rainfall, less than 50 centimeter. Let us see again. Plateaus of Peninsula, especially Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Ladakh. Right? Ladakh. Let's move ahead. Next is variability of rainfall. Please understand, you should understand what the variability means. Variability means that some regions experiencing a lot of variation with respect to rainfall. The ones, if you realize, are relatively closer or direct influence of the wind, monsoon winds, particularly the southwest, will be experiencing lesser variability. Those regions which are very far away will be experiencing more variability. So variation with respect to rainfall, to what percentage rainfall can vary. This is again just a representation because questions have not been asked on this, but I've just drawn one map so you can understand. This region close to Thar Desert, variability is greater than 60%. This particular region again has variability of 30 to 60%. It has regions of Punjab, Rajasthan, parts of Gujarat, parts of Maharashtra also, little bit part of Telangana also over here. Variability that is from 15 to 30% covers major part. This is not available, that is why I've written. Then is less than 15% are regions which are experiencing a lot of rainfall from the southwest monsoon. That is again the Kerala part and again certain parts of the northeast India. These are the least variability, right? So this is something that you should be remembering. Okay, now last part, one of the last parts is the climatic regions. Please understand, India is a wide country, 32,87,263 kilometers square. So the various, overall you realize that overall you realize that though we have monsoon type of climate, but there are a lot of regional variations might exist, right? If you see the conditions that are present in the northern part, because um, if you realize that the half of the country is in the tropical, half of it is in the temperate. So by default, there are going to be variations. Though we realize that it's completely under a monsoon type of climate, but there are a lot of variation. That is why we realize certain demarcations have been done. Now, please remember, if you are studying any optional related to geography, then you will be studying a lot of classifications like Trivartha, Stamps, Coppens, and so on and so forth. R.S. Singh, many of them. But when you are studying for NCR and what for JSS general studies, then confining yourself to NCRT becomes important. Over there, the classification of Koppen is given. We will be confining to that only, and questions have been asked in the prelims of not only UPSC but the various state service examinations also. Now, over here, please remember, the whole country has a monsoon type of climate, but many regional variations exist. Temperature and rainfall are the two important events for any climatic classification, and among many, Koppen's classification is very popular. Now, please understand, he has given certain abbreviations. Now, please understand, you have to remember them. Why? Because in the examination, they can ask you what this means, what that means. This can be asked. So let us assume they will ask you BHW, what does it mean? Hot desert. BSSW means steppe or what? What does it mean? For that case, you should be knowing these abbreviations. There is no shortcut for this. Right? See here. This classification is based on mean annual temperature, mean monthly temperature, and precipitation data. Now, please understand, Koppen had given his classification for the world. So when you study the other NCRTs with respect to world, you have certain other abbreviations also mentioned. Let us say H, for example. H we do not use in India, but it is mentioned because in the international classification. So international classification also, it becomes important to understand. I've covered them here. If you remember them, it will be good for the world also. Now, A means tropical. A means average temperature of the coldest month is 18 degrees Celsius or higher. B means dry climate. Potential evaporation exceeds the precipitation. C, warm temperate, average temperature of the coldest month is higher than -3 degrees Celsius, but below 18 degrees Celsius. Cold snow forest climate, average temperature of the coldest month is -3 degrees Celsius or below. Cold climate E, average temperature for all months is below 10 degrees. H, highland type, cold due to elevation. That means some altitude is there, or let us say for example, Tibetan plateau type, where elevation is there and conditions because of that. So these are the major capital letters or the climatic groups that are there. Other than them, also there are certain words, small and big capital words, or small words, capital words have been mentioned here, which you should remember. S means semi-arid. Now the combinations of these various alphabets basically create a climatic condition. Right. So combinations will be created. Let us say SA. Let us say S is created. So that means semi-arid, dry season, somewhat like that. So combination of these words will create a particular climate. Capital S means semi-arid. Capital W means arid. Capital S and W are employed to designate the two subdivisions of the dry climate. T means tundra. F means ice cap. Two divisions of the polar climate. Small a, we had done capital A. Capital A was average temperature of the coldest month is 18 degrees Celsius or higher. So this is a major climatic group. These are small. Hot summer, average temperature of warmest month greater than 22 degrees Celsius. C, cool summer, average temperature of warmest month less than 22. F means no dry season. W, small w. This is capital W, arid. Small w, dry season in winter. S, dry season in summer. Small h, average annual temperature less than 18. M mean monsoon, short dry season. G means Ganges type, or the climate that is associated in the Ganges region. Now, based on this, he has given this classification. This region has been designated as BW, both capital H and W small, hot desert. BSHW, steppe type. AMW, that means monsoon type with short dry season. A with small s, that means monsoon with dry season in summer. This region is AW, tropical savanna type. This region is CWG, monsoon type with dry winter. This is E, polar type. This is DFC, including the region of Sikkim, cold humid winter with short summer. But this is again important. Why I'm telling you, many people neglect it and then they suffer at the last because one or two questions might come from them and you are not able to answer them. So this was the part of your climate which I have covered. Please remember, I have not gone into advanced concepts. There is a reason behind it. Because we are doing right now from the basis of NCERT, certain things have been mentioned just to link it. Various other dimensions will be covered in the topic of climatology when we will do the other NCERT. So if you read this and understand, it will be more than sufficient for you to understand the Indian climatology with respect to, or Indian climate with respect to the NCERT. There are a lot of concepts here, revise it. This time I've written a lot of stuff on the board in front of you. So please go through the lecture repeatedly in order to understand it. Just merely downloading the notes and studying from it will not work, because please, lecture has its own value and worth. Use it constructively. If you enjoyed this lecture, you can write it down in the comment box and tell me, how did you feel when you saw this lecture? Did you learn something? Did it increase your knowledge? Please remember one thing. A lot of books give a different interpretation of different things. So do not get confused. This is again standard stuff. Do not get confused in that. So follow this, what is being told, and you will be succeeding in life, or I'll be able to help you in some way to succeed in life. So lots of good wishes from my side and lots of love from the PW Only IS team. Take care and Jai Hind.